Population geography has recently emerged as a separate discipline of study and research. It is concerned mainly with spatial analysis of population. It involves not only the magnitude of human population but also its different characteristics, growth and mobility. It is related to other allied areas like demography, sociology, economics and related disciplines. Definitions of population geography. Trivarta, who is considered as the father of population geography, pointed out that the essence of population geography lay in understanding the regional differences in people covering the earth. The central theme of the science of population geography is the area differentiation. It is essential to understand the process of spatial organization. Population constitutes the most dynamic and the central element in such processes. Clark observed that the main task of population geography is to study areal variations in population and their relations with the physical, cultural and economic phenomena. Clark lays stress on spatial aspects of population and distinguishes population geography from demography. In his book Population Geography, published in the year 1965, J. I. Clark opines that population geography is concerned with demonstrating how spatial variations in distribution, composition, migration and growth are related to the spatial variations in the nature of places. Trivarta's case for population geography has been accepted favorably by all geographers of the world by and large. The outcome of Trivarta's proposal is the emergence of population geography as a distinct branch of geography since the 50s of the last century. Population geography is a systematic branch of pure geography. It lays emphasis upon regional differentiation of areas in terms of their populations. It does not study man as a phenomena in or by itself, but as an area characterizing and area differentiating element. Population geography is concerned with the temporal and spatial analysis of population attributes. According to Hetner, population must be treated dynamically. It involves the concept of regional birth rates, death rates, migration and so on. The geographer's focus should not be directed to the biological phenomena only. They should also consider the spatial qualities and economic, political and social psychological conditions of the population. Geography should consider on the one hand the comparative dependence of population on natural, economic and social conditions, and on the other hand the contrasts in the population numbers and densities in different parts of the earth. Geography is basically the study of regions. The concept of region cannot be divorced from the fact that an area has reality only in terms of the specific groups of interrelated elements which compose it, and it can be studied only in terms of these elements which are the topical to systematic specifications of geography. Among the various groups of elements which cause the Earth's region differ, population is important. Population is the central element around which all other elements revolve. It is from population only the other elements derive geographical significance. Thus, the study of population is the single most important approach to geography and one in which regional concept has its broadest application. Geography of population is not the science of man, but it does include within its purview the study of man in his reciprocal relationship to the earth. The objective of population geography is an understanding of the regional differences in the people covering the earth. Any comprehensive geographical analysis of a region should take into account the differential growth of population. According to Trivarta, numbers, densities, distributions and qualities of the population provide the essential background for all geography. Ackerman pointed out that geography treats areal differentiations and all significant areal differentiations have a time dimension. Demographic movement is at the heart of the forces which influence the change in time and space content. Roots of population geography. Population geography was a neglected subject to study for a long time. In the past, it was not a separate subject in the area of geography or spatial analysis. It will be argued here that the nature of contemporary population geography owes more to the radical changes in approach and methods operating throughout human geography in the 1960s and 70s than to the particular emergence and development in 1950s of population geography as a recognized branch of geography. Yet, these early roots must be at least acknowledged and traced briefly. It was in the early 1950s that population geography finally emerged as a systematic branch of geography in the sense that it dealt with a recognizably distinct group of phenomena and systematically related processes, the study of which involved a particular form of training. Much of the credit must go to Trivarta, who used the platform of his presidential address to the Association of American Geographers in the year 1953 to make a powerful case for and an outline of population geography. He argued that population was the pivotal element in geography and one around which they all drive their meaning. Other important formative statements were made at the same time by P. George in the year 1951 and James in 1954, and such was the growing interest in population geography that several synthesizing introductory texts appeared in the 1960s. In these traditional approaches, a focus on spatial distribution was thought sufficient to distinguish population geography from demography, which is much more concerned with the intrinsic nature and universal attributes of population and with a temporal rather than a spatial dimension. But a problem had always existed in specifying population attributes appropriate for direct study by the population geographer. Two questions have dominated the traditional approach of geographer to population study: where and why there. The first has been responsible for considerable work in observing, identifying, and above all depicting patterns of spatial distribution. Mapping of cross-sectional patterns thus dominated the early working of population geography, well exemplified by James devoting more than 3/4 of his discussion of research frontiers in population geography to problems of mapping. Why there? The population geographers approach a step further into essentially ecological field. Since the aerial facts of population are so closely orchestrated with the totality of geographic reality, consequently, the analysis and explanation of complex interrelationships between physical and human environments on the one hand and population on the other is the real substance of population geography. The subject matter and scope of population geography can be defined briefly as follows. First one, study of population distribution in all its aspects, namely size and spacing of settlements of units, continental and subcontinental population distribution patterns, gross patterns of distribution, ecumenic and non-ecumenic aspects, intertemporal and interdistributions. Secondly, density of population and its various types, determinants and density over the regions and world patterns. Thirdly, spatial movement of population such as migration, international migration and its determinants, types, causes, consequences, and loss of migration, and the migration of high quality manpower from less developed countries to developed countries. Fourthly, growth of population, which includes measurement of population growth, birth and death rates, components of population growth, determinants, trends, causes, theories, and population projects. Fifthly, population composition such as ethnic composition, religious composition, linguistic composition, age and sex composition, occupation structure, marital status, educational compositions, economic composition, dependency ratio, workforce employment status, industrial classification, income and expenditure, income distribution and poverty. Literacy and quality of population, which includes literacy differentials, determinants, word pattern, quality of population, hygienic programs and practices, and methods for improving the quality of population. Next, rural and urban population composition, which encompasses rural urban demographic differentials, urbanizations, processes, degree of determinants, world trends in urbanization. Next, population resources ratio, which include population growth and resource development, population pressure, resource based theories of population, optimum population, underpopulation and overpopulation, world resources population patterns, resource population ratio, population policy, etc. A geographical overview of world population, which involves world population growth, population projections, world migrations, distribution of world population, age and sex ratios, median age of population, life expectancy, and economic, social, cultural, health, climatic, and political indicators of world population. The discipline of population geography has to make a systematic study of various attributes of population, not in isolation but as part of process of various demographic phenomena occurring spatially. Jelinsky, a famous geographer, has stated that the scope of population geography should include a treatment of all the variables present in the census schedules of advanced nations. However, lack of uniformity among the census is essentially related to composition of population, definition of workers, and definition of occupation, and so on. The limits imposed on population geography are likely to be determined by the cultural and economic milieu in which population geographers have to work. The cultural context has been found to be relevant in its influence on the scope of population geography. The scope of population geography can be categorized simply as the study of social and cultural futures of population. These futures include literacy, migration, ethnic composition, caste, religion, marital status, and so on. Economic characters such as labor force, occupation, income, income distribution, standard of living, poverty, poverty status, labor employment status, labor absorption, labor use, efficiency, and so on. And biological attributes of population such as fertility, mortality, age, sex, race, absolute number, and the like. Interdisciplinary approach of population geography. Population geography belongs to the borderland of geography, which opens on economics, sociology, and demography. While demography is divided to numbers and depends heavily upon statistical methods, population geography relates numbers to area and relies on mapping. Clark pointed out that population geography should study areal variations in population and their relationship with physical, cultural, and economic phenomena. The analysis of numbers and demographic processes for political units belong to the area of demography. Population geography is concerned with spatial analysis of population. It also incorporates the economic attributes of population like income, expenditure, occupation, income distribution, poverty, and so on. The science of economics is basically concerned with allocation and valuation problems. Thus, both economics and population geography are interrelated and they have many common grounds for analysis. This is perhaps the reason why population geography is considered as a part of economic geography. In the Soviet Union, in fact, population geography cannot remain aloof from the domain of economics analysis pertaining to population. Population geography is related intimately to sociology. It studies the social attributes of population such as marriage, religion, caste, literacy, family, ethnicity, household system, and so on. Thus, these two branches of knowledge are inseparable. They have obviously many common interactions. Population geography is also related to biology. It studies the biological attributes of population like age, sex, morbidity, health, intelligence, race, and the like. A population geographer must have an intimate knowledge of biology. The study of human populations embraces a wide academic spectrum, and it is important to review the interest of at least some of the more central and important disciplines in the population field in order to assess how distinctive is the approach of population geography. Demography. Within demography, a distinction has been made commonly between formal and pure demography and social demography. The former emphasizes the demographer's prime concern with collection, evaluation, adjustment, analysis, and often projection of population data. Within the more general approach of population studies are social demography, the need to handle and analyze the basic demographic data objectively is not disputed, but this is regarded as starting point in exercise, a means to an end and not certainly an end in itself. Population ecology. The study of human population is regarded by some biologists as part of a single field of population study at all organic levels, micro, animal, plant, which has been termed general demography, biodemography, or increasingly population ecology. Despite the diversity within plant and animal kingdoms, population ecology attempts to formulate generalization. Laws and processes for living organisms as a whole in their relations with each other and their habitats ecology, from the Greek verb meaning home or place to live. Human ecology. This emerged as a subject in 1920s through the initiative of Chicago School of Sociologists, most characteristically expressed in the work of Park in the year 1936. Much of their initial work was in applying the fundamental theories and methods of plants and animal ecology to the study of human communities, especially metropolitan ones, through the process of competition or the struggle for the space. By the 1940s, classical human ecology had become discredited as crude biological determinism, and the focus of the discipline swung more to studying the spatial distribution of social phenomena by cartographical and statistical methods. In more recent years, human ecology has re-established itself by focusing on studies of the ecological complex at various community scales, from local to global. This indicates that human ecology focuses above all on the interactions between the fundamental dimensions and in the complex from a functional point of view. the spatial and ecological approach to population phenomena remains the dominant and distinctive dimension of population geography, but the practice of subject has changed appreciably in response to the winds of conceptual and quantitative change which have swept through human geography in the last 2 decades. Nearly all these changes were introduced and developed in branches of subject outside population geography. Several strands of methodological transformation in population geography can be identified, although they are obviously more interactive and less compartmentalized than the following list suggests. Quantification. The traditional geographical means of presenting and analyzing population patterns has been essentially cartographic. Thus, the map is the most fundamental instrument of geographic research, with particular reliance on dot maps for the distribution and on choropleth maps for the distribution by area of population characteristics. But with the growing awareness of quantitative methods with geography, an alternative means of describing numerical distribution within the space has been adopted increasingly. The matrix, since this offers superior opportunities for subsequent analysis. The traditional visual comparison of map patterns has invariably been supplemented and often replaced by the use of correlation and regression methods on geographical data matrices. Such methods allow spatial associations to be described with precision, and if analysis is extended into consideration of residuals, hypotheses can often be generated about the identification and role of additional related variables. Nevertheless, one must be alert to a range of difficulties in applying standard statistical procedures like correlation and regression to spatially distributed data. Computer graphics. Increasing access and familiarity with computers has stimulated the adoption not simply of the advanced statistical methods, but also of automated cartography. Population geographers benefited from the use of computer mapping systems like SIMPA, which produces choropleth and isopleth maps by printing characters or symbols to produce required densities. The advantages over conventional hand-drawn maps are essentially in accuracy and speed of production when maps of several variables required for a common areal base, thus allowing the initial programming and data preparations time to be effectively spread. Models. Much of the traditional work in geography adopted a descriptive historical approach to what were considered to be unique situations, but growing familiarity with the methods of physical and social sciences has encouraged geographers to seek assiduously for patterns, regularities, and order in space. Process study. There has been a growing awareness in human geography that too much attention in teaching and research has been given to the observation and identification of spatial patterns and too little attention to the processes which create and subsequently modify such patterns. Behavioral geography. As a response to what some geographers regard as the excesses of macro level deductive theorizing of mechanistic QO, falsism links are being forged increasingly with the behavioral sciences in order to appreciate better how the decision which collectively from the basis of geographical processes and patterns are made. This approach has been used extensively and fruitfully by population geographers in studies of the socio-psychological determinants of migration, one of the most overt expressions of spatial behavior. Applications and relevance. Despite a widespread satisfaction in geography with the intellectual rigor imparted to the subject by recent conceptual and technical developments, there exists an equally widespread concern that the subject has not been contributing powerfully to solving the pressing problems facing mankind. Ideology, often associated with calls of more socially relevant, humane, and welfare oriented approach in geography, have been structures about the value judgments implicitly adopted in academic studies. Harvey has demonstrated powerfully, with particular relevance to the active debate on the global population resource balance, that in geography as elsewhere, there is no such thing as an ethically neutral scientific methodology, and Hurst in the year 1973 has accused human geography of largely supporting the status quo and predisposing people to acceptance of social ills accompanying capitalism.